Abraham Lincoln was 16th President of the United States, who preserved the Union during the American Civil War and abolished slavery. He was from humble background. People loved him for his distinctively human and humane personality as well as from his role as savior of the Union and liberator of the slaves that had a dramatic death. John Wilkes Booth, a member of one of the United States' most distinguished acting families of the 19th century, assassinated President Abraham Lincoln. Booth was outspoken in his advocacy of slavery and his hatred of Lincoln. On the morning of April 14, 1865, Booth learned that the president was to attend an evening performance of the comedy Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in the Capitol. About 6 p.m. Booth entered the presidential box. Booth drew a pistol and shot Lincoln through the back of the head. He grappled briefly with a patron, swung himself over the balustrade, and leapt off it, shouting, "Sic Semper Tyrannis." James A. Garfield was the 20th President of the United States, who had the second shortest tenure in presidential history. On July 2, 1881, after only 4 months in office, while on his way to visit his ill wife in Elberon, New Jersey, Garfield was shot in the back at the railroad station in Washington, D.C., by Charles J. Guiteau, a disappointed office seeker. Guiteau peaceably surrendered to police, calmly announcing, "I'm a stalwart. Arthur is now President of the United States." William McKinley was the 25th President of the United States, 1897 to 1901. Under McKinley's leadership, the United States went to war against Spain in 1898 and thereby acquired a global empire, including Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. McKinley's margins of victory in both the popular and electoral votes were greater now than his last victory, no doubt reflecting satisfaction with the outcome of the war and with the widespread prosperity that the country enjoyed. On September 6, 1901, while McKinley was shaking hands with a crowd of well-wishers at the exposition, Leon Czolgosz, an anarchist, fired 2 shots at the president's chest and abdomen. Rushed to a hospital in Buffalo, McKinley lingered for a week before dying in the early morning hours of September 14. Francis Ferdinand was an Austrian archduke whose assassination was the immediate cause of World War I. In June 1914 he and his wife were assassinated by the Serb nationalist Gavrilo Princip at Sarajevo. A month later World War I began with Austria's declaration of war against Serbia. Princip's act gave Austria-Hungary the excuse that it had sought for opening hostilities against Serbia and thus precipitated World War I. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was a leader of the Indian nationalist movement against British rule, and was considered to be the father of India. He is internationally esteemed for his doctrine of nonviolent protest to achieve political and social progress. It was one of the greatest disappointments of Gandhi's life that Indian freedom was realized without Indian unity. On January 30, 1948, while he was on his way to his evening prayer meeting in Delhi, he was shot down by Natharam Godse, a young Hindu fanatic. Natharam Godse believed that Gandhi treated Muslims with more respect than Hindus. John F. Kennedy was the 35th President of the United States, who faced a number of foreign crises, especially in Cuba and Berlin, but managed to secure such achievements as the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and the Alliance for Progress. On November 22, 1963, from a window on the 6th floor of the Depository Building, Oswald, using a mail-order rifle, allegedly fired 3 shots that killed President Kennedy and wounded Texas Governor John B. Connally in an open-car motorcade in Texas. On the morning of November 24, while being transferred from a jail cell to an interrogation office, Oswald was shot by a distraught Dallas nightclub owner, Jack Ruby. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister and social activist who led the civil rights movement in the United States from the mid-1950s. His leadership was fundamental in ending the legal segregation of African Americans in the United States. In 1964 he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. A confirmed racist and small-time criminal, James Earl Ray, shot and killed King in Memphis on April 4, 1968, confessing to the crime the following March. The King assassination riots, also known as the Holy Week Uprising, was a wave of civil disturbance which swept the United States following the assassination of King. Indira Gandhi served as Prime Minister of India for 3 consecutive terms, 1966 to 1977, and a 4th term from 1980. During the early 1980s, Indira Gandhi was faced with threats to the political integrity of India. Several states sought a larger measure of independence from the central government, and Sikh separatists in Punjab state used violence to assert their demands for an autonomous state. In response, Gandhi ordered an army attack in June 1984 on the Sikhs' holiest shrine, the Harmandir Sahib, Golden Temple, at Amritsar, which led to the deaths of at least 450 Sikhs. 5 months later, Gandhi was killed in her garden by a fusillade of bullets fired by 2 of her own Sikh bodyguards in revenge for the attack on the Golden Temple. Rajiv Gandhi, Indira's son, became the leading General Secretary of India's Congress Party from 1981 and Prime Minister of India, 1984 to 1989, after the assassination of his mother. In May 1991, Gandhi was campaigning in Tamil Nadu for upcoming parliamentary elections when he and 16 others were killed by a bomb concealed in a basket of flowers carried by a woman associated with the Tamil Tigers. In 1998, an Indian court convicted 26 people in the conspiracy to assassinate Gandhi. Haiti's President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated in his private residence in the capital, Port-au-Prince, on July 7, 2021. The president was shot 12 times and had bullet wounds to his forehead and several to his torso. His left eye had been gouged out and bones in his arm and in his ankle had been broken. Haitian authorities say 26 Colombian mercenaries were involved in the July 7 murder of Moïse, with 18 arrested, 3 killed after the assassination, and 5 still on the run.